If you're thinking of making the switch to DaVinci Resolve, if you're on the fence on learning how to use it, how to manage your media, and how to get into the edit page. Let's pretend we're starting fresh. We've just opened Resolve. We get this screen, okay? This is where your libraries, your project libraries are stored. By default, there's going to be an internal storage setting on your computer where library information is stored. And since I already have a project here, if I double click on it, it would open up that project. So I'm going to open up a new project. If you go right to the media page first, on the left-hand side, you'll see volumes. So if you have an external drive plugged in, that should show up. If it doesn't, all you have to do is right-click under the media storage and hit Add New Location, and you'll see this screen pop up so you can go and click on whichever location it is that you want. Basically, if I drag and drop all these videos into here, down into the media pool, you see they all show up. So that means when I go to the edit page, if I open up the media pool at the top, that's where my media lives. I can just drag it into my timeline and start editing. But we don't want to do that. We want to stay somewhat organized. So right now what I want to do is I want to organize my footage. So under Master, I'm going to right click, New Bin, and I'm going to call this Audio. And what I'm going to do is take my 4 audio files here and drag them into the audio folder. You can set this up ahead of time. You can create your bins before you drag the media in, or you can do it once the media has been dragged in. It's helpful because if you're working on a project and somebody sends you more footage, whether that's photos or video, you can just drag them over to the bin that you've created. So then under Master, I want to create another bin that I'm going to call B-roll. Select all of those, drag them into the B-roll folder. Now what's left is my main interview footage, and since there was only one camera on this setup, I'm going to leave it be. If this was a 2-camera setup, I would create different bins for the different angles. So if I click on this icon here that says metadata, you'll see how it organizes the footage. Now there's nothing there because nothing has been inputted yet. But what I can do is on the right-hand side where it says, I'm going to click on metadata at the top right, and then this little drop down right here, I'm going to do shot and scene. Okay. So I'm going to click on any one of these clips. Let's click on this clip right here. I can add a description, a comment, a keyword, but right in here I can add the shots. So let me call that shot 1, scene 1, take 1. So now when I go into my edit page and I go into the metadata view, I can see my first clip says shot 1, take 1, shot 1, take 2. You can also do this in camera. On the Blackmagic cameras, there's a metadata screen where before you do the shot, you can input that information and it'll already be here for you when you bring that footage in and you select metadata. Now let's jump into the edit page. Now that our media is managed, what we can do is you go into the edit page, and at the top left there's your media pool. Let's say you have all your footage in there and you're fine-tuning your edit. If I click at the top where it says media pool, that goes away and it gives me a little bit more screen space to work with, which is really nice. It's another feature that I like about DaVinci Resolve. And if I'm doing my edit and I say, oh, I want to go back and grab more footage, I click on media pool. So in the edit page, there's a couple features that I use quite a lot that I think are helpful in editing your timeline, whether you're doing short form content, long form content. Command plus and Command minus will expand and contract your timeline. Expanding it's great for doing fine-tuned edits, especially if you're cutting audio. You can, Command plus and get all the way in there and look at that sine wave, make sure that it's in sync. What I like about the full extent zoom is one click and your timeline compresses. So whether you have 2 minutes or 2 hours and 2 minutes, it's going to compress the start and end in one single view for you. at the top of your viewer, there's single viewer mode, which will just show you the clip that you're working on, whether it's in your media pool or in your timeline. But if you switch to dual viewer mode, this is where your editing becomes a lot easier. So the left-hand side is the source file from the media pool, and on the right-hand side is where I am in my timeline. I can move my playhead around. We'll see that that screen moves as well. So right now I have a timeline. And if I want to throw a clip in between these two clips, what would happen now is if I grabbed this and dragged it over it, it would erase over, it would replace what's there. And I don't want that. I want to squeeze it in between. So I have this clip, and I want to fit another clip in between. So the long way is to line up your playhead and hit Option Y, and it will select everything from the playhead to the end, and I can grab these and move them and squeeze something in there. The better option is drag this clip over to the timeline view. You see I have a couple different options. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to insert. So if I hover that over insert, boom, it puts it right in for me, moves the other tracks around, keeping all that audio in sync, all that hard work that you've done. The problem with the Option Y option is sometimes it can, you're manually moving it. So there are times where it can take your audio out of sync. It can move something that wasn't selected and erase over that. So this is the better option. Let's undo that. What are our other options? Overwrite. Overwrite is the same as just dropping it in. Replace. This is going to replace the clip that was there. It's kind of similar to overwrite. Fit to fill. So what it's done was, if you take a look at the clip to the right of the playhead, it's going to, no matter how big my clip is, it's going to fill in that space. Place on top is really easy, just places it right on top. One thing to pay attention to with place on top is in DaVinci Resolve on the edit page, you have your video tracks start here and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, they move up. And then your audio goes down 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we take a look at this timeline, video 1 and audio 1 are the same source. It's the videos from the camera, the audio is from the audio that was recorded onto the camera. Audio 2 is my separate audio that I've recorded. If I were to drag this clip on top of my timeline, if I manually pull that clip down, watch what happens with the audio. So you see the audio right there. As I move it down, the audio from the camera is going to replace what's on audio track 2, which is my professional audio, and I don't want that. So in that case, I would have to move it up to video track 3 so that the audio would move. Now, the easier option would be just to drag the video, but by doing place on top, that has placed the video on video track 2, but then the audio on audio track 3. It knew not to disturb my timeline. Append at end, it'll just add it to the end of your timeline. Now, another cool thing with the edit page is you have different views that you can turn on and off. So you have a mixer here if you want to see the audio levels. Sometimes you may not need to go into the Fairlight page, which is this page right here that has all of your audio. Let's say you have 2 tracks. You just have the audio from the interview and music. You may not always need to go into the Fairlight page. You can do it all right here on the edit page. You open up the mixer. You can expand this out. I can come up here and do voice isolation. I can do dialogue leveler. Voice isolation is great because it just cleans up the sound. It'll get rid of any room noise. The advantage of doing that in Fairlight is you can do it per channel, whereas in the edit page, it's per clip. If you go up to the video tab, so I can zoom in, I can change the position. This is also where you would do stabilization if need be. You can do stabilization in the Fusion page, you can do stabilization in the color page, but if you're trying to keep things simple, if you're doing something short, those options are in here as well. The other thing I recommend when you're in the edit page is set your timeline proxy resolution to quarter or half. It's going to make playback a lot smoother. It's less taxing on your system. There's the start for you. There's so much more that this program does. It's wonderful. It's really, it's free. The studio version does give you a few more options, but as far as just doing basic editing, the free version will handle that. So jump into Resolve and make a project, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'm Matt Spade. See you around.